Sometimes because of the fact that I notice a shift, I'm like, oh my God, something is wrong. In reality, no, it's just a shift in energy. It's just a shift in behavior. I think the biggest thing is just being honest with where I'm at, recognizing that I don't have it all figured out, and that's okay. Taking time for myself when I need to. This is something that we had discussed prior, but having a support system, at least being able to call someone and tell them, like, I had a shit day today. Can I please vent? Having those open arms and being like, absolutely, please go.
Hi friends, it's Kayla Moran and welcome back to the Let's Get Canted podcast. How is everybody doing today? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, happy Thursday, or whatever time you're listening. But if you're listening on Thursday morning, I am currently in my most difficult final, my second to last final ever. And as of tomorrow, I will be done with law school and I graduate next Saturday, which is absolutely insane. And I know I keep saying that, but just like, truly, I have been reflecting the last couple of weeks on how far I've come. And yesterday, right before my wills and trust final, one of my clinic professors came up to me and was like, I don't want to interrupt you too much. I know you're studying, but I just had to tell you, since I saw you, I was just talking about you to someone, telling them how proud I am of you, because I'll be honest, I was really worried about you last year when you told us what your career goals were, what you wanted to do with your degree and what you wanted to do in your life, your career. I was really worried because it's something new. It doesn't really exist yet. And I was just concerned that for you, like, I want you to succeed. I want the best for you. And I was a little worried, but I was telling them how proud I am of you. And it just goes to show how perseverance pays off, and like, you're going to do amazing. And I'm so proud of you. And then he was like, well, I'll let you get back to studying, but I just wanted to tell you that since I saw you. And I was like, you're going to make me cry. This makes me so happy to see that other people, lawyers, professors, deans, faculty, my classmates really do see the work that I've put in, especially in the last year and a half, and have seen how far I've come. And it truly does mean the absolute world to me. I've been really struggling the last couple of days with imposter moments and just not feeling good enough, and looking at my friends and looking at other people building their dream lives, building their careers. And like, it's not like the timeline thing. Like, I know my time is coming. I know I need to just graduate, and that like come fall, I will be able to do all the things I want to do. It's not so much like I want it now, but it's just like, I see that potential for myself. And I'm like, I want to be doing that stuff already. Like, it just feels very inconsequential going through the motions of studying for exams and taking exams, even though I know that's super important. It's just like, I'm just ready for the next step. And I just need to remind myself to be patient, and just a few more months and I will be there, and I will be amongst them, and I will be doing all the things that I want to be doing and that I've said I'm going to be doing. I just know I need to be a little bit more patient. But yeah, so that's what's been going on this week. I am so close to being done. It truly hasn't hit me yet. Like, I was saying this the other day to someone. It's like, I don't know if I'm going to cry at graduation. Like, am I going to be happy? Am I going to be sad? Is it bittersweet? Like, what are these emotions that I'm going to be feeling? And like, everyone feels differently. We all have our own journeys to get here. And that's something I really would love to talk about with my classmates in the future, have them on and share their journeys and their experiences, and then people from other schools, because even though we are going through it together in the same time and place, like, everybody's experience is so unique to them and what their goals are. And I think that's the beauty of just any program in general, or any career path in general, school or not, vocational, whatever. But yeah, so, and then I wanted to touch on really fast last week's episode. Something that I talked about in my DMs with Scout Sobel, who was last week's guest, is that she's a proud college dropout. And I just want to emphasize that, I'm about to have 2 degrees. Not everyone goes to college. Not everyone gets a master's or a doctoral degree or whatever. It is totally okay if going to college is not your path. Look at Scout and the empire she has built. Being a college dropout, especially, and someone who struggled with mental health but chose entrepreneurship as her own unique path. Everybody has a path. Everybody's journey is unique to them. And like, don't worry about the timeline. Don't worry about what everybody else is doing. Do what matters to you, what it makes you passionate, what makes you tick, what makes you happy. When you are passionate, you're willing to put in all the work and all the effort and go through the struggles and the pain, and you will succeed so much more because you are passionate about it, and the people around you see that and want the best for you and are going to support you in that if you are truly passionate and doing what you love. And I wanted that to be the major takeaway from last week's episode, and we were talking about it in the DMs yesterday. So I really wanted to share that with you guys here. But before I jump into this week's episode and introducing the guest, I want to talk a quick suck and sweet of the week. So suck of the week is kind of my anxiety has been really, really bad. And I don't know if it's finals and just finals, and particularly my evidence final, which is the one I'll be taking as you guys are listening, if you're listening Thursday morning. And if it's that final or just graduation in general and the bar exam, and like the fact that, again, I want so badly to be doing the things that I want to be doing and building the life and the career for myself. And again, it's not a timeline thing. It's just like, I know that's what I'm passionate about and I know that's where I want to be, but knowing I have to be patient. But like, there's so many things that have to happen before I can get there. And I think that anxiety coupled with finals and like actual bar exam itself, it's just, I wasn't sleeping. I haven't been eating well. My skin is breaking out, my acne, my stress levels, my cortisol levels. I haven't been doing great. So I think that would be my biggest suck of the week, that, and that it's just finals week in general and no one likes finals, but I mean, it's a necessary evil and it's my last finals week ever. And my sweet of the week is just being grateful for the opportunity to even have come to law school and be where I'm at today, and all of the growth and the lessons that I've learned, and being able to close this chapter, end this book, and move forward into the next chapter of my life and the next story, because there's so much more to come. And I just truly would not be who I am today if I didn't have the opportunity to go to law school, and for the last 3 years of my life in general, and just how far I've come overall. But of course, law school is a big part of that. And I joke that I don't think I would do it again if I were to go back, but I'm very grateful that I did it, for all the opportunities that it has given me, both personally and professionally. And yeah, I'm really excited for the next chapter. And I was doing meditations, Melissa Wood Health meditations, before my last 2 exams, Monday and Tuesday, and truly have changed they're so transformative. I highly, highly recommend her app and following her if you don't already. It's $9.99 a month, but it is so worth it. And truly, even 5 or 10 minutes of meditation or movement, especially her style of movement, is so transformative and changes my life. And it takes little to no effort at all. It's just getting up and turning it on, honestly. Or you can even do the meditations in bed. But I did them in the couch in the lounge at school before exams, and people were watching me, but I was like, you know what? I need this for myself. And I'm so grateful that I did. And truly the impact that they made, it carried into my exam. So I will be doing that before my evidence final and before my law of distilled spirits final, which, although that one I'm not super worried about, the irony is that one will be at 8:30 in the morning on a Friday, about alcohol and alcohol distribution laws. But law school it's a fun time. But yeah, truly, I would not be where I am today had I not had the opportunity to come to law school at the time that I did, where I did, when I did, all of the above. So that is my sweet of the week, that this journey has officially come to an end as of tomorrow. Well, as of next Saturday when I graduate and I walk across that stage and get hooded. And I'll talk all about that in next week's episode. But truly, I'm so, so grateful for the last 2 years. And I'm really excited to see what happens next. And with that, I want to introduce to you this week's guest, the second part in my Mental Health Awareness Month series. Because May is Mental Health Awareness Month, I am having Fiorella Bianchi on. She is a social worker. She is a fellow Miami blogger, and she is all about wellness and mental health. And every morning she does morning mantras, and she shares really great resources and advice and tips on wellness. And we talk all about social work and why she chose social work and the career path that she has had with it and what you can do with the social work degree, because I think it is a very misunderstood degree and it's not really, people don't talk about it. It's not something you hear about a lot, especially, you hear law school, med school, business school, but there's so many other programs, and I want to have all of the other programs on as well to give you guys all of the advice and tips and tools that I can. And I love having these conversations and learning about their experiences. So I'm really excited to have her on. But we also just talk about her journey with mental health and how it has led her to where she is today and how she uses it in her life, the tips and tricks she uses, her practice rituals that help her move through her day and be a better person, a better social worker, a better partner, a better friend. And I think it's a really great episode. I will note that the audio does get a little bit wonky at some points in this episode. We had some technical difficulties when recording, but I hope you guys enjoy the episode, and I'm really excited for this one. And yeah, I will do a recap on finals and law school again next week and talk to you guys how I'm feeling about graduation because it's next weekend. But for now, meet Fiorella. Hi, Fiorella. How are you?
Hi, how are you, Kayla?
I'm doing good. I am so excited to have you on. I've had a dating coach on and I've had a behavioral body wellness coach, but I've never had a mental health counselor on. So I'm really excited to chat with you and really explore a lot more about mental health, something I'm very passionate about. And I talk a lot on this podcast, and I know that's something you're very passionate about. So can you introduce yourself and talk a little bit about why you got into mental health?
For sure. So my name is Fiorella. I'm born in New York, but raised in Miami. I was actually a theater kid before I even started mental health. So that was kind of like a left field turn that I took at some point in my life, more specifically when I was in college. And the reason why I bring that up is because it's honestly the reason why I started mental health. To be quite honest. So, my title is actually I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I mentioned that because I feel like a lot of us don't get enough rep out there as therapists because of the fact that we are social workers. But in reality, us social workers, we do a lot of therapy and we are very much involved in the more clinical aspect of mental health. Really, I guess what started me was just I went to New World. I know you had Sasha Medici on this, and she was a New World student herself. And so I was a musical theater kid, and I thought musical theater was my life. I thought that theater was my everything that I wanted to do, and it turned out that it wasn't. And as I was trying to figure out what it is I wanted to do, I recognized that within theater, it saved me. So I am also diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder. I've been struggling with anxiety since I was 15 years old. I've tried medication, I've tried mindfulness, I've tried bunch of other things, and I kind of use everything I've learned to help me, but really what helped me was the arts, theater itself, and the whole going into character and learning about the character's dynamic and learning about the character's relationship and how it portrayed this person that I was supposed to eventually become. So I guess while finding my path, my sister-in-law, she's a doctor at work, and she said, "Well, you're really good at listening to people. You really care about what people have to say." I signed up for Barry, and I got accepted, and I got my master's in social work. And during my time there, I learned a lot. I learned a lot about behavior. I learned a lot about pain. I learned a lot about struggle. I learned a lot about resilience and people who overcome the things that they've been trying to overcome for years, and it was exactly what I wanted to be. And when I got to the point where I was kind of open and accepting of what I was struggling with, I learned more about myself and more about helping others. And I think that's really where my passion comes from. Right now, I currently work as a school counselor during the day. I work with middle school kids, and they are special.
Yeah, that's like honestly one of the roughest times to work with students, I think.
It really is. And I think it's that whole coming of age thing, the trying to figure yourself out. You are a kid where the world revolves around you and you are suddenly emerging into the world as, a teenager, and then you're becoming an adult eventually, and you realize that life is not what you thought life was. And that in itself, I don't think people recognize it enough, but that in itself can be traumatizing
Oh,
because you're just
100%.
like, this was my life, and now I'm expected to not do this anymore. And I think that middle school ages between like 10 to 14 is such a sweet spot. And it's those kids are so moldable. And if you just teach them kindness, you teach them how to cope. It's like little bodies with adult emotions. Is what I tell them.
Honestly, my cousin's 14 and I asked her today how school was going or how she's doing. And she's like, friends are good. School's just really stressful right now, like extra stressed with school. And I'm just like, she's a freshman. And it's just she's having a rough go of things right now, not just with school, but family life, but like mainly at school. Like her middle school years, you know, friendships change and girls are developing and boys are mean and like girls are mean and it's just she is a bigger girl and you know she loves food and we've really worked with her on healthy eating habits and moving your body and you know she rocks her size and she's very like she loves her body but it's taken a lot of work to get there and sometimes we have to remind her of those things which is normal and just because of that like growing up middle school like the way people treat you and just we all in my family have
Right.
very strong personalities and I've struggled with it. Her older sister struggled with it. Like our parents struggled with it, you know.
I mean, in general, though, kids are also really mean and like
Yeah, they
They
are.
really they really like to point out things that, like, you don't need to talk about, but it's almost like that filter is non-existent for some reason.
No, and
Yeah.
the other thing too is we have very strong personalities and other girls don't like that and she struggled with that as well and it's something that I to this day still struggle with now at 24. I'm 10 years older than her and I'm still struggling with it every day. And, that's a whole nother topic. But I think it's cool that you started out in the arts and that really shaped who you are today. I'm also an art kid. I was a dancer my whole life.
Yeah.
I got into New World.
I remember, I heard that in the other episode. I thought that was fantastic.
Yeah, I got in. I chose to go to Coral Reef because I wanted to have the academic focus
And
as
they have
well.
such a great program too.
Yeah, they really have a great program and I don't know, I'm glad I made that choice. But, the theater, arts, dance, they teach you so much about life through the arts and about yourself too and about people. And I love how you said like you have to become this role and like you're learning all of these different parts of different people help you shape who you want to be. And I think that's so true. And
And besides that, it's also just, like, how healing the environment can be because I mean, I don't know about everyone else, but the art kids are usually categorized as like the weirdos, right? But it's made me so comfortable within my own skin. Like I am a proud weirdo and I do not mind it. And if anything, I feel like it really has enhanced my ability to just be myself while I am providing therapy. It gives me that platform to just kind of allow myself to be me. And in like concordance with that, it allows my client or my student to be themselves because they see who I am because of how comfortable I've grown to be in my own skin. They're like, oh, okay, she's kind of cool. I guess I could be me too. Like
yeah,
and it's really helped molded, I guess, the way I think too. Just it's exposed me to so many
I think
beautiful
it is that
people.
exposure. That's a great word for it. It exposes us to so much at such a
Mhm.
young age and different ways of life and walks of life and music and history and all these other things. And it just shapes our worldview so much better than the average person. And I am a firm believer, one day I hope to be able to donate to the arts because they're so, so, so important. And I love that too, that, you know, they see you being your true self and they're like, okay, like I can do that too. And it's very inspiring. And that's why the arts are so beautiful. And you mentioned, that social workers don't get the credit they deserve. So can you talk about the distinction? Like, what is a social worker and how social workers also are therapists and why that distinction isn't really there?
Right. So I guess the reason why I feel like social workers don't get enough credit is because they associate us a lot with DCF, which is Departments of Children and Family. Basically, we're known as the people who take away the kids.
Yeah.
I guess in like the good roundabout way. And, they see us as case managers and more like social welfare, like helping people receive that kind of assistance in that kind of way. But in reality, social workers not only help in case management, and they do help in DCF. We work in clinics. There we go. Addiction clinics. We work in substance use clinics. We use domestic violence. We work around mental health in general. We have a lot of different aspects to our title. We also work in policy, especially up in Tallahassee or in Washington D.C. There's a huge handful of social workers that go out there and they talk about the needs of the people, of where we need to kind of fill more space, especially when it comes to mental health, especially when it comes to social welfare. I feel like as social workers, we are so rounded, and I don't feel like they receive enough credit because of that connotation that we are just attached to one side. And I would like to also point out that when it comes to departments of children and family, social workers aren't there to just remove. We take everything into consideration. I want to speak on behalf of them because I feel like they have sometimes a negative connotation attached to their name. We actually try, like, I know that I spoke to an old peer of mine that she actually currently works at the Department of Children and Family. And we were having that conversation in regards to like what happens in a neglect case, because a lot of the times people don't report these things because of the fact that they don't want the child to leave, or the child themselves aren't ready to go. And although yes, neglect is terrible, abuse is horrible, sometimes removing them from the situation and putting them in foster homes isn't always the answer.
Yeah,
Sometimes
$100%.
it goes beyond that.
Yeah, I took family law last semester actually, so I got to see some of that in the cases we read, and just, and you see it in movies sometimes or TV shows, foster care sometimes can be so much worse.
Mhm.
They're neglected or abandoned in different ways, and, emotionally, even if it's, you remove them from a physical abusive home, but now they're being neglected by their foster parents because the foster parents, all they're doing is collecting the check that they get from the state a month.
Right. And obviously those are case by case.
Yeah.
But there are situations like that. You're also removing like a bond, the trauma itself, there is a thing called trauma bond. And yes, it is unhealthy. Absolutely. However, there are ways that, the child has to process and develop. And sometimes when we remove these kids from these situations and place them in foster care, they don't receive the adequate care. They don't go to the therapist. They don't go through these processings. So there's so much involved with DCF, and it's always such a touchy subject because you want what's best for the child, but you also don't want to hurt the child. And it's hard. It's hard. But I did want to say that on in behalf of them, that they are doing really difficult work. And I feel like sometimes they don't get all the rap for it. And I know that there are a lot of cases out there, where there are so many cases that slip under the cracks, where there are children that are being abused that they do need to be removed and they are not, and then it goes far beyond what it needs to. But anyway, I digress.
No, I'm glad you brought that up because it's very true and very important to note that. And yeah, in family law, I got to see a lot of those cases, and we actually also in the law school they've done a really good job of bringing in a mental health counselor and people in the mental health field to help counsel us as students while we are going through this curriculum. And
Oh, that's wonderful.
so we set up really good habits early on because the legal profession is notorious for being the highest rate of substance abuse and suicide of the professional degrees because of the stress, and you start taking substances to help you manage and perform, and mental health, just the legal profession has a really bad reputation for that. And so the school has really tried from since I've been there to counteract that early on by giving us the resources. And there's a mental health person, like a part of the College of Law. They work there
That's wonderful. And I,
to
I
help
think
us.
that's so important too, because I feel like sometimes when it comes to law and politics, We don't take into consideration the mental health aspect. And I feel like that has more to do with not fully understanding mental health. I feel like sometimes the minute you talk about mental health, it's kind of like, oh gosh, like, oh
Yeah.
man, mental health, you're sick
Especially
in
in this
the head.
profession, because it's like, "Oh, you're not tough enough, you can't handle it." So and I'm really grateful that the school has really taken that upon themselves, and
Yeah.
in the clinic, 'cause, I did clinic my last year, where I get to be a student attorney. As part of our clinic curriculum, specifically, the clinic hired 2 social work students, 1 undergrad, 1
Oh,
master's in social work student, to be our counselors and teach us
oh,
skills to help us in our practice as student attorneys. And I
that's
thought,
beautiful.
so I wanted to continue that
That's
plug.
Yeah. See,
So it was
social
really
workers out
cool.
here.
It was really cool. And
um,
I remember thinking like social workers as like therapists, like, I mean, I know you guys provide therapy as part of your job, but again, that connotation that society has. So it was interesting to me, but it's funny that you brought that up. You brought up that distinction, and I wanted
Well,
to.
yeah, I actually in my so at the school I work at, I'm really lucky because all my coworkers, they're all licensed mental health clinicians. So they work obviously in that field and they know a lot about the same things that I know about. I guess it's just interesting that I can do the same thing they do. We do the same stuff. The only difference is also like as a social worker, I have the liberty to do policy. I have the liberty to do case management. I have the liberty to do behavior analysis if I focus on that. I can specialize in different aspects, like licensed mental health clinicians, but we can reach outsource in different ways.
I really like that you said that, and I was gonna ask you, like, what are some career avenues each one can take? So you did that for me. That was good.
Yeah, yeah, it's great. And I love it. And then eventually I feel kind of sad because I don't want to leave my field and I'm always so glorious about the social workers, but I do eventually want to get more into clinical psychology. So eventually I'd like to go back to school and get my PsyD, which is the clinical doctorates rather than the research doctorates. PhD is more research based, while PsyD is more
I
clinical.
was gonna ask, I was like, "Do you need to go back to school for that? What would that look like?" So, talking about school, what's the process for becoming a social worker who does what you do and works in the more clinical side of social work, and then the process to become a clinical psychologist later? What's the schooling aspect of it?
So you want to go to a university that's accredited. That's the first thing. They want to be accredited in social work. So I got to go to Barry University, very proud. And they have a fantastic clinical social work program. And so they teach you, I have human development, I have psychoeducation, I learn all the things, therapies, and all that stuff. You have to do at least, it depends on your path, how long it's going to take. Some students do like a rapid path that they start from their bachelor's and they go straight into their master's. So that's I think about like 5.5 years. I did the regular master's path, which was 2 years of schooling, and then
In
the
addition to
people.
your bachelor's, right? So it's 4
Yes.
and then
So
2,
it's
so
my 4 years of my bachelor's and then my 2 years of my master's. And that includes 1,000 hours of clinical. And then in order to get licensed, so you have to graduate with that, right? You get your MSW and then you have to do 1,000 hours of clinical apart from the 1,000 hours you already did. So I did one semester at it was children of inmates. So I was really interested in actually working with in the criminal justice field. And this is kind of where my diversion in my fields started happening. So I picked this place called Children of Inmates, which is a wonderful program where it reunites parents with their children after they've been released from prison. So it's like a lot of outreach. So you go, you provide therapy to the families, and then we also provide group therapy to the inmates inside, the ones that are getting ready to be released. So I had the opportunity to do both. I volunteered to do the inmate part because I really wanted to know what it was like to I'd never spoken with an inmate before. There was always like, you watch TV and you're like, oh my God, they're so scary. Um, but they're just people. who
Yeah.
made choices, and whether they're good or bad choices, I'm not there to judge. I just know that they want to come out and that they're a part of this program and they want to meet their children. And some of them had never even seen their kids. They've been in there for so long, they've never met their child. So it's preparing them what it takes to be a good father, what it takes to be a good mother. What is it? What are the needs that they require? How do you empathize? How do you meet them where they're at? How do you not allow your own generational trauma to affect your relationship with your own child? That's the conversations we were having in the prison. At home with the kids is dealing with, well, why did mom not come home? Why don't I know my dad? How do I accept a stranger as my parent? And it's kind of normalizing that what they're feeling is normal and it's okay to not feel like you can relate to somebody that you're supposed to by society relate to. Um, my dad once told me everyone has a father, not everyone has a dad.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like teaching them that it's okay for you to not feel comfortable. And if you don't ever get that same relationship that maybe you desire, and it's understandable. But if this is something you want to work on, then we can definitely work on it. And so we work on it, or it was a very when they do reunite, you get to be there for it, and it's actually very tear jerking.
Yeah. No,
uh,
I like have chills as you're saying that. That's so cool.
I-
And being a part of something like that where you do get to rehabilitate the family and bring them together, and that is absolutely incredible. I think that's so cool. I didn't know that that was a program, and I hope,
yeah, it's a great
someone
program.
listening maybe goes into that, because I
Yeah.
think we need more people like that.
The way it works is basically if you have a family member that is a parent that they're ready to get out, they can actually register. I guess depending on the jail system, they can register for the program, and it's a couple months, and then they get prepared and then they reunite. But following that, I guess I was really invested in trying to work with prisoners and inmates. I actually did another clinical round at South Florida Evaluation Center. And it's a mental hospital down in Florida City for people who have committed crimes and they're waiting trial and they're pleading not guilty by reasons of we are in that place. It's kind of like getting them to when they need to understand what it is that they
Yeah,
did in order
so
to attend trial.
yeah, so not to get too legal term here, but to explain that. So you can plead not guilty by reason of insanity, and if you are not mentally capable, you cannot stand trial. And the court can do mental health evaluations to make sure you in order to stand for trial, you have to be mentally
Competent.
sane, competent.
Mentally competent.
You
There
have
we
to be,
go.
yeah, you have to be competent. So if you are not competent or you plead guilty by insanity, then I guess you go to this place. And I never knew that. I actually very curious. I never knew what happened once they pled guilty by insanity. I know they don't sit for trial, but never knew what else happened. So good to
So
know.
essentially it's like limbo.
Yeah, you're in limbo.
They
You can't
they're
stand for
not
trial, but you
Yeah.
are
They're
not.
not serving anything. They're just kind of there trying to get competent. The psychologists come in, they ask them the same questions. You understand what you did? If they say no, then we evaluate them. And then as clinical social workers, you come in and you actually provide therapy for them. So I provided therapy for a lot of people who were not mentally stable. And I learned a lot there.
I can
Um,
imagine.
yeah, it was it was quite eye opening. I don't regret it. Although I learned a lot, I did see a lot. Um, it tested my abilities and it tested my strengths and tested my boundaries really about how far I can go or what is going to make me twitch. I remember having a conversation with a borderline personality, and they were also diagnosed with schizophrenia. They were a bus driver for a daycare, and they would take the kids to this, I think it was, and they would go to the bathroom and, I don't want to go into detail as to what happens, but I remember sitting there and having a conversation with this person, and they would talk about what they did as though it was Sunday brunch, and there was no remorse. And they would go into detail to see if it would make me feel uncomfortable.
Wow.
And they got a kick out of it. They enjoyed it. And I remember the first time walking out of there and speaking to my supervisor and being like, what the fuck was that? Like,
I literally don't know what I would do.
I was
And
like,
I have no training for this, and you do, but like still, like
I was just
what?
like, oh my God. And she's like, did you react? I was like, I mean, I don't know. I just stared. I
Yeah.
didn't know
I
what to
mean,
say.
is there something you can do? Like, I mean, first of all, before we go back into this story, like just the fact that, you learn so much about people, about the world, about yourself being in these situations. And it also makes you a better counselor, better social worker, better person, having gone through these experiences. So, wow, I'm just
Yeah.
baffled by this story.
Thank you. I mean, dude, I'm telling you, it's hard. I would remember coming home and Brian, my partner, he'd be like, "So what happened today?" And I would tell him, and he'd be like, "My God, I don't know how you do it." And I'm like,
Yeah,
frankly,
I don't know.
I don't know either. But I guess I was just ironically, so after I did that, I worked actually like in the field. Like I graduated, I was starting to get my hours, I was starting to work as an actual like, therapist um at this outreach program. And I felt safer in that hospital than I did providing therapy. It was very interesting. So ending my experience at this very interesting hospital where I learned a lot. And I do wish everyone who is there right now. Hopefully, members that I worked with have moved on and they're placed where they need to be placed and they're healing the way they need to go. A lot of them made some very cruel decisions and choices in their life. They're still human.
Yeah.
I have to give them
That's the
that.
beauty of the justice system, and there's many things wrong with it. That's another podcast. But that's the beauty of that, if you are not mentally okay, if you are not competent, you will not stand trial. And that I'm grateful to know that there are people like you that try to help them so that they do understand, because a lot of times they cannot comprehend what they did was wrong. And that is
And
a
there's
reason, and that's a ground for insanity.
yeah,
And
and there's a lot of them that even like for example, somebody who is antisocial personality disorder will never see what they did as wrong. They will never truly fully understand the capacity or extent of their crime. They'll just see
yeah.
it for what it was and be like, well, it happened. So,
Yeah, and those people, they stay in that weird limbo, and they will, but the people who do learn to see where they went wrong then can be rehabilitated or attempt to. And so that's there are these people who are in that situation. If they don't want to stay there, they don't have to. And I think that's really cool. So yeah, so you graduated, you were now working as a clinician
as a
and
therapist,
as
and
a
that
therapist.
was when I really experienced what psychological burnout felt like. So I don't know what happened, but I started working in I won't say their name, but I started working for this outreach program. And basically what happens is that when a person gets Baker acted, they are required to see a therapist after.
Can you explain what Baker Act is for people who don't know? Because I think the term is a Florida term, but I'm sure other
Yes.
states have a similar name for it, but it's a law.
Yes, it's a law that basically requires that if you are a danger to yourself or others, you can contact the appropriate authorities and they will come and they will hospitalize you for at least 72 hours. You will be evaluated. If you need to go on medication, they'll give you medication.
And it's
And
voluntary and involuntary. So you can choose to be
yes,
Baker Acted, or your family can make that choice for you.
yeah, it really depends on the situation.
Yeah. But just wanted to
And
clarify that for people
yeah.
who don't know what it is.
And I appreciate that you did that because it's good for people to know that it is voluntary. I feel like a lot of people feel like it's a punishment. I don't blame them.
Don't get me wrong. I remember vividly when I first found out that I had depression and anxiety. I remember, I don't know if you watched this, the Demi Lovato documentary, one of the
Yes.
first ones that they did.
Yes.
I remember watching that and I was like, I don't have bipolar disorder. I know that now, but I thought I could have. And I went to my parents and I was like, I think I need to be Baker acted. And they were like, what the hell is that? Like, they were so confused. Child of immigrants, Hispanic parents, mental health is just not being a part of the conversation in our community as a
Right.
whole. They don't know these things. And I do
Right.
research because I'm like, something is wrong with me. I don't know what it is. And I was like, I need to be Baker acted. And I never was, thankfully. Some people, they do need it. And it's very helpful and grateful that they are.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a very I feel like Baker Act is such like being hospitalized is so finicky. It could be very damaging.
Institutionalized. I think there's a difference too between hospitalization and institutionalization.
Well, institutionalization is when they send you to a hospital
It's a
to live
word.
there.
I was like, blah, blah, blah.
It's a tongue twister, but when you are institutionalized, you are sent to a mental hospital, and you are going to stay there until your treatment is over, essentially. And depending on the level of where you're at mentally, someone can write you up and put you in there, or you can sign yourself up. You can voluntarily do it or involuntarily. Hospitalization is only 72 hours. You may stay longer if you may require it, but you're not you don't live at the hospital. Like, you know, this can hospitalization can happen at any local hospital. Institutionalized, you are at a location that is specialized in that.
Yeah.
Actually, normally what happens is if when you come from a place like South Florida evaluation, and they deem you not guilty by reasons of insanity, but you are unable to care or live on your own, they usually put you in an institution.
Yeah.
So that's usually what happens.
Yeah.
But after that whole process, you are released, and make this appointment with any outreach program, and you start seeing a therapist for a while until the therapist deems okay, you're good, or maybe you're not. Maybe you need to see someone private, whatever the case may be. So I did that, and for some reason, my supervisor decided to give me a bunch of kids, and I started working with children, which was not at all what I wanted to do. But as I started doing it and I started learning more about that development, using development and mental health and all that stuff, I fell in love with working with kids. I thought it was actually really interesting. I found them to be funny, and I found like joy in helping.
And it's what you said earlier too, like that children are so moldable and getting them at that delicate age. I think that's also why maybe you fell in love with it too, is because you really get to see the impact you are making on people's lives, children's lives, their families' lives, the people and their friends, each like in yourself. So yeah, I can imagine that was it's like I don't want to do this, but actually like I kind of need to do this. Like
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely fulfilling, and to be quite honest, like they're so innocent. Kids are so innocent. And even the kids that go through really tough things. Like I worked with neglect, I worked with abuse, trauma, I worked with depression. I had a case where I walked in on a girl trying to hang herself. So I've worked with really heavy things. It's just like even though they experience all of these things, there's still like this innocence to them. Like I don't know why this is happening to me. It pulls at you because it's like I wish you didn't have to, like
yeah,
I wish I could give you the answers because I don't have them, but I have the capacity to kind of understand because I'm an adult. A child doesn't, you have to kind of teach them. And some of these kids have seen more life than I have.
yeah,
And it's scary. It's scary to know that. It's scary to know, especially with
absolutely.
technology. Like, oh my God, these kids are on fire.
Yeah, that's another that's a whole other podcast, but it's true. And back to the whole capacity and competency thing, like children legally you do not have capacity to stand trial or legal capacity at all for contracts or anything until you are 18. So they are so innocent. They don't know why things are happening to them. That's the beauty of what you get to do and us as their friends and mentors and brothers, sisters, cousins, parents, aunts, uncles, like we get to be that for them. And I wish we could talk more about that, but I want to switch over to you personally. Like, how do you, because you struggle with your own mental health issues, you said anxiety, how do you handle these stories that you hear for work day in and day out? That's your job, you love it, but it can take a toll on you. And I'm sure that it does. How do you manage that? Maybe compartmentalize it, handle it, and what are some ways that you practice self-care and healing and meditation and therapy and all these resources in your own life to be able to cope with it?
Well, thank you for asking me that. I mean, honestly, I don't know.
I feel you. That's my answer to everything at
I
this point in my life is I
I
don't know
don't
how I do it.
I don't know, I just do it. No, I'm kidding. I mean, in all honesty, it starts with being honest with myself. I think that's the biggest thing. The minute I started realizing that I'm allowed to have these feelings. So my anxiety stems from a lot of generational trauma. My anxiety stems from a lot of things in my life that have been laid out a certain way that have caused me to become overly sensitive, to become overly stimulated and overthink things and constantly be worried. I think that's why I'm actually really good at my field because of the fact that I am capable.
100%.
And so sometimes I feel too much. Sometimes because of the fact that I notice a shift, I'm like, oh my God, something is wrong. In reality, no, it's just a shift in energy. It's just a shift in behavior. I think the biggest thing is just being honest with where I'm at, recognizing that I don't have it all figured out, and that's okay. Taking time for myself when I need to. This is something that we had discussed prior, but having a support system, at least being able to call someone and tell them, like, I had a shit day today. Can I please vent? Having those open arms and being like, absolutely, please go.
For those of you who listen to me, you know that Instagram is where I do this because I don't have that person. One day, hopefully, I will. But don't worry, I'll still come here and vent and on vent on stories.
Well, you're always welcome to vent to me. I
Thank
mean
you.
that with an open heart. Like I really do enjoy listening. It's not just I do it because of a job. Like I do it because I love hearing people's stories. I
So
love
do I.
hearing people in general. I find people to be so strong, and I don't think we recognize that as individuals. I know I don't. Like I can sit here and talk wonderful things about my life and at the end of it be like, yeah, but I'm just a kid.
Oh, we
And
all do it. We all don't
yeah,
give ourselves enough credit. And we were talking about that before too, like off air, just something, that's a lot of what I'm working on with my therapist right now.
right.
But it's so true. I think because I know how these people feel to some degree, I'm better at empathizing with them. I understand energy, like you said, you pick up on things other people don't. That makes me better at being an influencer, being on Instagram, being a friend to people, being on this podcast because I can empathize with people. And, I empathize a lot with you and what you do. And I know you empathize a lot with me and what I do. And I think that is super special. And I like that you mentioned the energy part because I actually, when
Yeah, I'm a strong believer in energy. Like I know it sounds very woo-saw, but
oh,
like
I'm
I
very much about energy. I
yeah, I feel like we all carry like when you don't feel good, there is a downshift in energy. And I don't know if it is because of the fact that I can empathize. Like I don't like using the word empathize anymore because of the fact that I feel like TikTok grabbed it and like
social media
smudged
kind
it
of
all
ruins
over the
things
world.
sometimes.
Which yeah, that's what worries me. I actually just started this page and I've had such a blast with it. And I never taken myself to be anybody like on social media or like anyone like that, but it has been so eye-opening for me because it's something out of my comfort zone. Like I don't like talking about myself. I don't like boasting. I don't like all the
Yeah.
like even posting the video I just posted talking about myself today was such a hard time. I asked
Yeah,
all
but
my
I
friends, I was
think
like, "Is this cringy?" Like
yeah, no, and I think there are some people who do it because they love to hear themselves talk and they enjoy like in that, I don't want to use the word narcissist, but they can be sometimes. And again, that's another word that has been overly used
just
and
like self-involved or really enjoy like
self-involved. That's a
listening to
good way to put it.
themselves.
But I think the people who genuinely is some of this my therapist this morning, like I do the things that I do because I want to help others. I don't do it for me. I could be a very selfish person if I wanted to be, but I don't. I don't do it for myself. I do it for others because I want to help other people. I know my purpose is to help people. So even if it seems that I am self-involved and I'm doing it because I like seeing myself on stories and stuff, like no, I do it because I genuinely want to come on and talk on stories for like 20 minutes like I did last night. Like I love
I
that.
watched that.
I was like, people are gonna hate me for this. But
No, but
I
I
just
think it also just the fact that, like, in order for someone to relate, they have to know. You know, with
100%.
knowledge comes power. And so, like, if you have the courage to come on there and talk about how you had a rough day and how, this is how you got over it. And this is what you did to help yourself. And you know what? It's fine. Tomorrow's another day. Someone's going to watch that and be like, oh, well, if she can do it, so can I.
And that's my goal. My goal is that, like, and the episode I shared yesterday or this week, like, I want you to know that it's not as pretty and as easy as sometimes we make it out to seem, but that you can do it even if there's things going on that people don't see, and it is hard and it is difficult, because
Yeah.
it's making you stronger. And
Yeah.
and that you don't need to do it alone, and that you're not alone. Other people have gone through similar or the same things, and they have gotten through it. And that is your encouragement that you too can get through it. And I think that's the beauty of what you do too, is that you are there as a resource for people so they don't have to go at it alone, whether, through your Instagram and they're following you on Instagram or TikTok, or coming to see you as a patient, that there are people out there, social media, we're bashing on it, but like there's so many great things about it too, is that you don't
Oh,
have to
yeah.
be alone.
Yeah. I think it's such a great, it's a very much double-edged sword. I
100%.
think I think when used correctly, I think it's definitely, well, I don't like saying the word correctly, but appropriately, like used in a good context, I feel like it will have good outcomes.
And in moderation, everything in moderation. If you
Of
use it
course.
appropriately and in moderation, it can be helpful. If you use it too much, then it starts to maybe be that fine line of it's not so healthy anymore. But
Yeah.
going back to the energy conversation, so we actually didn't know this, but we met at yoga.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so you are
Yeah.
very big into yoga. Yoga has a lot
Yes.
to do with energy.
Yes.
So going back to, you,
Compartmentalizing,
yeah,
right.
your job takes a lot out of you. So how do you do things for yourself to heal, to cope? Yoga, any other things that you do? Any tips for people that, are struggling, have things going on in their lives, and what are resources that people can use and do to feel better?
So I'm going to be completely honest with you. I don't meditate.
Me
I've
either.
always wanted to
I
meditate,
wish
but
I could.
I really like, it's a struggle for me. Like I have a hard time, but I find stillness in other ways. I do affirmations. I don't know if you've noticed on my page, I do daily mantras. Actually, I do
I
them
did
every
see
morning.
that, and I am very big on affirmations as well. And something I started doing. I don't know if you've seen me talk about this or if you do this, but
Yes, I have.
I hug myself at night and say, I'm proud of you. I love you. I did it in the car today on the way to get my nails done, because I kind of was beating myself up in therapy at the end, and I needed to just reframe my mind really fast. So I'm very big on affirmations. Meditation is something I
Yes.
would like to get into one day,
One
but
day.
that's
Right.
a
So
one day.
I do the affirmations. Um, I I do that daily. I'm very big in self-care. I really do like to take time to wind down. Like I love my showers, my really hot showers, and watching a show I really enjoy, and drinking tea, and like doing things that really make me feel good. And having that one self-care day where you go like you did today, like therapy, nails, face mask later, having a great meal. Like I'm very much on self-indulgence and giving yourself that thing that you say you shouldn't, but you want to. I'm very big on that. I feel like having a healthy relationship with food, having a healthy relationship with loving yourself is really important. It's essentially what's gotten me by. And yoga. My God, can I talk about yoga? I feel really bad because I haven't gone to yoga in like 2 weeks. I've been having a little bit of an anxiety episode recently, so it's been a little hard to find motivation, but yoga changes my life. It has changed my life. We spoke about it earlier when I was like, I'm so
Yeah.
sorry. I go tunnel vision because I walk into that like warehouse, that space, and it is zen.
I
It
had
is
never done
my
a
home
formal
base.
yoga class until I had done yoga. One of my professors actually provides us with free yoga classes once a week at the law school. She's very big into yoga and started inviting students to come join her. And that's how I got into yoga. Truly because of
Yeah.
that. I had never done it. And she She met me one day crying, one all year, like, hey, like, she offered to be there for me, help me. And then at the end, she was like, I teach yoga. I think you would really enjoy it and it could be really helpful for you. Like, please come. All you need to do is come. And like,
Yoga is such a
it changed. It
forgiving
really,
sport.
I want to get into it more. I wish, like, when I move home and have the money to pay for the studio, I plan to be there because that one class, like, wow, like the experience.
I'm gonna plug it in because they are
Yeah, no, plug
amazing and I
them.
love them. Casa Vinyasa, I love you, dude. If you're in South Miami, please go there because it is such a safe space. And honestly, the teachers there, I don't know, yoga is so forgiving. It like teaches you how to be kind to yourself. They always say, like, if you're not there today, you're not there today. And that's okay. You'll be there eventually. And if
Yeah.
you were there yesterday, but then today you're not, that's fine too. Like, I incorporate yoga in my day to day, in the way I speak, in the way I move. If I feel tense, just a 5-minute stretch. Oh my Jesus. It is beautiful. I feel
It
so
is.
good. And you could really, when you have a bad day, here's a little challenge for everyone. If ever you're having a bad day, literally just take 2 seconds and take a seat and just ask yourself, where in my body do I feel it? Because I guarantee you're going to feel it somewhere. You just have to listen to your body.
Yeah. I love
And
that.
and if you just sit down and you just kind of, like, today I feel it in my shoulder. All right. So I'm gonna stretch my shoulders. I'm gonna give myself a little cool down. I'm gonna stretch my back. Just 5 minutes of a little stretch. You're gonna notice, and I do it with my students. I do it with my patients. I do it with my clients. I do it with my family. Like, I do it with everyone because I feel like it's something. I feel like it's free.
I
It's
love
free
that.
therapy.
No, it is. It's funny. 90% of the time, my back is what's the problem. And it's funny, so this professor, she always would be like, I'll see her in like sitting in the hallway, like in really random positions. And it's because she's stretching. And it's just funny to see like a 60-year-old law school professor doing that. But I love it. And I'll do that. As a dancer growing up, I was very flexible. I lost a lot of it, but I tried to still stretch every once in a while. And sometimes I need to stretch because my muscles are tight. And I'll sit in the library in weird positions too. And I laugh at myself now because she made me conscious of it. But I mean, sometimes, yeah, you just need to stretch it out, like think about what's hurting and find a way to do something. And I want to get better about yoga in just every day. Like, I try to move my body at least 10 minutes a day, whether it's a walk or not, or just a stretch. And there's something, just doesn't have to be yoga, literally just stretching, like moving your body and just stretching after a hot shower or before a hot shower.
Oh,
It's
so good.
magical. It's
So
magical.
good. Well, whenever you're back in town, let me know and we'll go
Yes.
together. I promise I won't tunnel vision.
No, it's fine. All good. I mean, I was there meeting with someone, so I was like very tunnel vision, like find her.
Yeah, with your
Like,
friend.
where do I go? 'Cause I had never been there before, but now that I discovered that place, I genuinely love them. And I don't, if you follow me on Instagram stories, you might have seen that they sent me a card.
Yeah. Oh my God, they're so
They're
awesome,
so
Melissa,
great.
and so amazing.
I'll put them in the show notes so you can check their Instagram out. And if you're in Miami, I highly recommend checking them out.
Love you, Lizzie. Love you, Melissa.
They are super great. But yeah, I love that challenge. I love that, it's such a great reminder too. So yeah, you said you started this page. You recently are posting a lot more about this on social media. So where can everyone find you? How can they work with you? Plug yourself.
Of course. Yeah. So my page is called Hija de Miami. I really wanted to call it that, and I'm gonna talk a little bit just about the title because I feel like Miami being such a Hispanic culture, as you mentioned earlier, mental health is not really something that, is talked about in Hispanic
No.
culture. And, me being Hispanic myself, I found that to be very prevalent within my own family. Luckily, I live in a time where open minded about these things. And so they're more receptive when it comes to the conversation. But I wanted it to be I wanted to reach out to Miami, kind of like,
No,
hey,
and I love that.
we're
I'm
all
glad
children of Miami,
I was about to say, like, I love the title. I didn't think to ask you, but I'm glad you explained it. It's true. And yeah, like, same thing. I'm glad my parents are starting to be very receptive of it. My grandmother, who definitely has no clue what the hell this is being a lot more receptive of it. But we are all products of where we come from, wherever that is, wherever we're raised, our environment, the people that we surround ourselves with. It takes a village. And in Miami, that is 100% true. The neighbors,
Yes.
the abuelos, the aunts, the uncles, like everybody's
Yes,
involved.
everyone, la vecina,
Um,
all of them, man.
and the old man who's working at Publix bagging your
My God, the
groceries.
lady from La Ventanita.
Yeah,
Hello?
like everybody is a part of your life and your childhood, and we really are children of Miami. So I love the name. Hija means daughter, and I love that.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate I was so nervous about opening it because I didn't even know where to go with it, and honestly, having all these people, like, you know,
I
interacting with me and, like, talking about, like, their experiences, and I guess the best way to reach me right now, I'm just focusing on Instagram. I haven't really delved into any other realm, but just like everyone experienced, like, answering my questions and participating in the day-to-day check-ins, and, I my posts mostly are more like knowledge, psychoeducation when it comes like to toxic friendships or like wind down routines or even like talking about how to deal with testing anxiety and things like that. Just simple topics. I want to write more. I'm still getting the hang of it, but it's been such an experience, and I want to thank you so much for like taking a chance on me and like
No,
having me on
absolutely.
your show.
Well, you reached out to me, and I was like, yes, like please come on. I haven't talked about something like this before, and it's super important. And I think TikTok would be great for you, but or a blog and or both, but or even a
Maybe one day.
podcast,
We'll
or
see.
even a podcast one day, all of the above. But I think it's so cool that you just I think being open to putting yourself out there, it kind of the community kind of tells you what they want from you and what they need from you, and just being open to trying different things and seeing what works for them, but also makes you feel really good and where that alignment is. That's the sweet spot. So it's definitely working, and I think it's really cool. And what you do, the mantras and the check-ins, we all need more of that, and we need to continue talking about this and opening up this conversation about mental health. And I'm a big fan.
Thank you
So
very much. I'm a fan of your stuff too. I love your page. I think it's oh my gosh. Besides the fact it's so aesthetically pleasing to look at it, it's like serotonin to my brain. Like, oh my goodness.
I mean, that's the depression inside of me, that like I need things to be, and anxiety too. Like I need things to, like, my background right now is so neutral. Like I
My God, do
need
you see mine? The
like
chaos
that,
with
like not gonna lie, gives me anxiety. Like I I need like clean spaces, neutral spaces to just I want to walk home. Ideal in an ideal world, I would love for someone to be like, "Do you want a tea? Do you need a drink? Can I give you a massage when I walk home?" But I don't have that right now.
oh,
So
so
just
so
would
yummy.
be freaking great. But like just walking into my apartment and just like knowing that my space is clean, it's neutral, nothing is really like taking up space, and besides this desk that's covered in textbooks, like it's clean, it's neutral, it calms me.
That.
Like I need that in my life. So I'm glad that it like the aesthetic comes out.
Yes, it does. It
Because
does.
that it truly, I want it to be peaceful, and like I don't want it to be chaotic, and like I mean it's a very aesthetic version of my life. But I've actually, as I've gone curating my aesthetic online, I've gone curating my life to match it, because I found online my sweet spot, like what my aesthetic is with, Pinterest and other people's inspiration. I was like, okay, I like this, I can do this. And then seeing, clutter in my apartment, I was like I used to have extra stuff on my bed that I was like, I had a painting on the wall, I took it down, it's under my bed. Like I just don't want clutter. I don't want things. I don't want color. I just want it to be neutral, because there's so much already going on up here and on my phone that I just want to sit and do nothing.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a firm believer of that. Unfortunately, I live loves having little things now. So, and in all honesty, it's so much fun. This room is so much fun for us. This is our game room, and we're in the process of like changing it up so everything is everywhere. But I hear you. My room is just as new, like very calm. There's actually our room does not have anything. The other day he was like, "Can we put no?"
Well, that's the thing. If you have one clean bedroom, you have to have a room that's full of all the other extra stuff. Granted, our office is that in my parents' house. Here, it's my closet and my bathroom.
Yeah, but I think something else that really does help is having your own space. Like being able to kind of drift away from the day to day and giving yourself that opportunity to just kind of be in your own space.
100%.
God, it's so nice. My couch is my Zen cave. Like I have a little corner with blankets. I got my little mood lights,
I have
and
a salt lamp out
oh,
over there. Like,
me
like
too. It's over there in the corner somewhere.
what I do is I'll turn off all the extra lights and just leave the lamps on, like the salt lamp and like the two lamps I have, and like just like that mood lighting. I got one of those LED lights for my room at home that says need money for travel because I love to travel. But like that's my goal is to like have my salt lamp, that light, my lamp on, and like I have a dimmer in my room and just like have the lights dimmed and just like the aesthetic of a candle burning. Like that's my sweet spot.
I wanna mention one thing that you just said before. I'm not sure how much time we have left, but
Yeah, you're good.
I think the biggest important I feel like when you struggle with mental health, when you're going through something, everyone has a moment where they struggle with mental health. You know, anytime you feel overwhelmed or stressed, you're struggling with your mental health. That's obviously it becomes a difference when you are struggling with a diagnosis because at that point it's considered a mental illness. It's a diagnosis, right? But I think one of the biggest factors that really having a goal, having something to look forward to. A lot of the times when we're stuck in this mindset of things are not okay, it's hard to look beyond that, right? Talk about them a lot. Talk about it as much as you want, you know? Get excited for the things that are to come because
100%.
depression is hopeless. Depression is feelings of hopelessness. Depression is feelings of looking at the past and regretting, right? While anxiety is fear of the future, fear of what's to come, fear of how things may turn out, fear of judgment, fear of fear, just fear in
Fear.
general.
Yeah.
So having that one thing, and if you don't have anything,
Make it. Honestly, make it. Fake it till you make it. But no, I love that you brought that up. And it's funny because I struggle with both sides of that coin, the fear of the future, but also hopelessness sometimes. And that's a mind fuck all in and of itself. But it's
yeah, it's
very common
exhausting.
to have both. But one big thing that I do is, and I talked about this in the other episode, you know, focusing on the bigger picture, but also just, if you go back to my first episode of the year, setting intentions for the year, a vision board, setting goals for yourself and not resolutions. Because a resolution, it's like you're destined to fail because you're putting these limits on yourself and limiting
Yes.
beliefs on yourself.
I don't
But
do resolutions
I don't
anymore.
do resolutions. I do intentions. I set intentions for the year. I
Yes.
set intentions for the week. And
Yes. Yes.
being intentional with everything that you're doing and finding your purpose and knowing why you're doing things and just having goals for yourself. And they're goals. They're not like you have to get there. It's like I want to get there. And you get to get there by doing the work and going through life. And if it's meant to be that for you, you will get there. And I think I'm really
And
glad you
knowing
brought
that
that up.
your goals will change. They can and they will, or they won't. And
Life
maybe
happens.
life, so much happens. You know, life isn't black and white. There's a lot of grayscale, and I feel like people who are very definitive, they struggle sometimes in that sense where they're not really sure. Like things don't go their way, they're not successful, and that's not the case. Life isn't a race. At the end of the day, we live and we die. Like
Yeah, that's
not
the
to
only
sound
two.
not to
No,
sound morbid, but
no,
I
it's
get
true. And there was someone I was listening to earlier today. It's like your two things are certain in life. You have to pay taxes,
yep.
or you will go to jail. So pay your taxes, and you're gonna die. That's it. That's all we know in life is that those two things. And
and if I can be candid, I'm afraid of dying. I am afraid of dying. I'm afraid of death. That's actually something I work with my therapist sometimes because even the topic of dying scares me.
that's another podcast. I'm so
That's
curious, but that's another
another
podcast.
one.
But
But
I mean,
that whole thing is just it's very real. So you can live your life trying to accommodate all these societal standards. You can live your life trying to accommodate what you think your life needs to look like. Or you can live your life accordingly to your standards and your morale and enjoy it. And
And just know that your standards might change and they're going to change and that it's okay that they
yes,
change. And just being a lot more flexible and as beauty of going back to what you do and working with children, like they are so flexible, they are so moldable. And like we become adults and we have to pay the bills and taxes and insurance and all these adult scary topics, and we get really rigid and really black and white as we get older, and our risk tolerance goes down and we're scared and we live in fear, and as a whole we're just really anxious. Even if you don't have anxiety like diagnosed, like our society is anxious. And you know because we are so rigid and we have our standards and like these rules for ourselves and timelines, and like things have to be a certain way, and no, that's going to change. And COVID taught us that life gets turned
oh
upside
yeah.
down. And honestly, I argue with COVID is horrible, there was a lot of bad things, but it was actually kind of the blessing in disguise that this world needed in a lot of ways. And
Um, I wouldn't say blessing in disguise because it did do a lot of damage, and that would be discrediting the
yeah,
hurt
I
and the
mean, it's
pain
not the
that a
right
lot of
term.
people
It's
had to
definitely not the
live.
right term, but just like that,
But I know what you mean. Like
there's a lot
it
of good that
definitely
came out of it too.
it forced a lot of us to slow down. It forced a lot of us to stop, and that was challenging for some people, you know? And a lot of people, I think the thing that COVID did that's beneficial, in just to kind of highlight what you're saying, is it forced you to come to terms with the fact that everything you know is not always going to be there.
And that you don't know anything.
And that you don't know anything.
Yeah. No, definitely. I don't, and I don't know if I'll leave this in, but like I
A
don't.
conversation for another podcast.
Yeah. I don't know if I'll leave this whole part in, but I don't mean to say that it was a good thing, because it wasn't, but that there's a lot of good
I
that came
understood.
out of it.
No, I
Um,
understood what you meant. I just wasn't sure if, like,
yeah,
if
yeah.
that was gonna be in it or not.
I don't know. We'll see. Depends on how long the first part is. But
But I trust me, I'm not judging. I understood.
no, and I think a lot of people. I mean, also, first of all, the name of this podcast is Candid. I'm going to say things that are not so great.
That's the
Um,
whole point.
but and I don't want to be someone who censors myself, because I'm not that person. But you know, I've been very open with the fact that I'm glad COVID happened at the time that it did for me in my life while in law school, because it
Right.
helped me reframe and change a lot of things. It set
Right.
me on the path where I'm at today, that I don't think, like, I wouldn't be where I'm at today and doing what I want to do. And my whole purpose, I mean, my purpose has remained the same throughout everything, but the way I'm going about it has changed because of COVID and what happened during COVID. COVID as in the season, the era, like the 2 years, not like the disease itself, but just
No,
like the
I
last few
understand.
years.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, we can continue talking forever, and we could definitely do several different episodes on. I'm really curious about the death thing, honestly. Well, thank you so much, Fiorella, for coming on. I'm so glad that we got to have this conversation. And where can everyone find you?
On Instagram at Hija de Miami, and on TikTok at Hija de Miami. Although I don't have content right there, just stay put. There'll be some eventually. But thank you so much for having me on this podcast. I really appreciate you, and I appreciate your journey and how candid you are in your, in all your material. And I really look forward to seeing more things come out of your page.
Thank you. I'm same to you. I'm really looking forward to it, and I'll make sure everything's in the show notes so you guys can go check her out.
Wasn't Fiorella incredible? I'm so honored to call her my friend, and the presence that she has made in my life in the last few weeks of knowing her is truly something special. I'm so grateful for her and her morning mantras and her energy, and every time I post something on my stories, she's one of the first to DM and we have conversations, and she's so sweet, and I'm really excited to hang out with her more when I'm in Miami, because I love having friends that I can truly have these difficult, more deeper conversations with, but also just have fun with. And her and I just had so much fun together while we were recording, and it was actually the first time we had ever spoken outside of DMs, but I'm really excited to get to know her more And I hope you guys go check her out and get to know her more too. She's such an incredible follow. And I'm really excited to call her my friend, like I said. And yeah, so I'm off to go study. Last final, almost done. The birds are chirping. I have a lot of energy today. It's early Wednesday morning and I just feel really good today. I actually feel really good. So let's hope that I keep that up and get through the next 2 days, because that's it. Just a few more days and we're done. And I'm really excited. But yeah, thank you guys so much for listening. If you liked it, please leave a rating and review. Please subscribe to the show, share with a friend. Please screenshot and, share it on your stories, tag us. It's the best way to grow the show. And it really does mean so much to me. And I love seeing you guys share it. Every time someone that I don't already know shares it, I'm like, oh my God, people are finding it. People like my podcast. So please do that so someone else can find it. And I hope this resonated. There's a common theme on the podcast, but lately I've been having conversations that I didn't know I needed to have when I record these episodes, and then getting to share them with you guys and see the messages come in of like, thank you for sharing this, or just with the guest afterwards when they listen back to it, because it's been so long since we recorded, getting to remember what we talked about and hear it again. It's so special, and it's like reconnecting all over again, and I love connecting with you guys. So please, please, please share with a friend so we can all connect. And don't forget to join my Geneva home so we can continue to connect, and just shoot me a DM, shoot me an email, let me know how you guys are doing. I hope you're all having a beautiful week, and have a beautiful rest of your week and weekend, and I will talk to you guys next week.